Hello everyone and welcome to Versus MTG. Today we are playing Dredge in Modern. In this matchup I wanted to try out what Dredge can do with 4 Smiting Helix in the main. With those and 4 Creeping Chill, we have, in theory, the capacity to make 24 damage and gain, of course, 24 life. That sounds kind of insane, but in order to do this, I took out the 3 Narcomoebas in the deck. So, let's see how it worked out. We won the dice roll and chooses to play first. We get 2 Dredgers, a Trinkhorn, a Lightning Helix and 3 lands. Actually, not a very good hand for Dredge, but with Loom in hand and the ability to dredge 4 before my first draw with Trinkhorn, I decide to take the risk and keep it. Opponent mulligan to 6. We play Copperline and Trinkhorn and pass the turn. Opponent draws, plays an Arthurian Petlam and loses a life to cast an Inquisition, making me feel a bit better for having kept this hand. They took the Imp, giving us the ability to dredge 5 next turn. Then they pass the turn. I use Trinkhorn at the end of their main phase and get a Reunion and a land into the graveyard. In our upkeep, I use Trinkhorn and get a Creeping Chill and an Agonaz. Opponent loses 3 life and I gain 3 life. Then I dredge for 5 with the Imp and get 1 land, a Helix, a Thug, an Amalgam and a Merchant. With just 8 cards in our graveyard, I cannot cast Agonaz yet, but I decided to play a Shockland and go to 21 and cast Loom to cast Agonaz next turn. Then we pass the turn. Opponent draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire and passes the turn. At this point, I'm thinking that this matchup can be against Classic John or John Death's Shadow. This means that they probably have some kind of removal in their hand or cling to dust. On turn 3, we first use Loom to dredge 3 and kept the Trinkhorn up. We get a Creeping Chill for 3 extra life and damage, a Reunion and a Merchant. We play a fast land and use the Trinkhorn, looking to get a Silversmith to get it back from the graveyard, but we get 2 lands. Here I made a mistake. I should have casted Agonaz from the graveyard, but instead decided to use Loom so I didn't lose Helix. So we can cast Loom and get 2 lands back and pass the turn. Opponent fetches in our end step and get a Blood Grip tapped. They draw a card and play Bloodstained Mire and passes the turn. With no lands in our graveyard, I decide to dredge 4 with the Thug. We get 2 lands, an Agonaz and Trinkhorn. With 2 Agonaz in our graveyard, I decided to cast it, so first played a fetch land and go and get a Blood Crit tapped. Then cast Agonaz, leaving Loom, an Amalgam, Helix and the other Agonaz in the graveyard. We discard our hand and get to dredge 15 out of 3 Imps, getting Creeping Chill, an Amalgam, 2 Silversmith, Loom and other Agonaz. Opponent decides to cast a Bolt in response to the Creeping Chill trigger, and then everything resolves, and they go to 9 and we to 26. During our end steps, Amalgams and Silversmith come back. With the trigger still on the stack, opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire, going down to 8, and getting Overgrown Tomb tapped. Amalgam and Silversmith resolves, giving us 3 creatures. The other Amalgam that's still in our graveyard has to come back at the end of our opponent's end step, because it was put into our graveyard after the Agonaz was cast, so it comes back because of the Amalgam and Silversmith that came at our end step, not actually because of the Agonaz. Opponent draws and uses Petlam ability to draw another call. Well, probably didn't draw something very good because they decided to go to game 2. Well, we didn't get to see much from them game 1, but because they are young, I'm replacing 2 Merchants of the Valley with Lightning Access and bringing in 1 Dark Blast for a Thug in case just one more damage is necessary to kill a creature, or in case they are using their confidant. Also, we bring in shenanigans, of course, because we are scared of graveyard hate. And one conflagrate, taking out another thug, and one agonist. The idea here is maintaining the overall structure of the deck and not over sideboarding. Most of the things that I bring from the sideboard have a similar role than the one that I took out, with the exception of agonist that get much worse after game 1 because we usually have to play through hate. Agonist is not really useful until we already have our graveyard with cards, and as we are on the draw, it's better to improve the chances of getting a good hand to flood the battlefield early, or to find a way to destroy their hate cards or refill our graveyard. We draw 2 stick with Imp and lands. As we are playing against a deck that uses Inquisition and Thoughtseizes, I could have chosen to keep this but prefer not to, because if they don't have it, we just lose the game. Going down to 6 card, we get Reunion, Shenanigans, an Amalgam and lands. As this hand has no Dredger aside from Shenanigans that dredges only for 1, we decided to go down to 5. Here we got no lands, so we have to go to 4. 4 is the limit that I usually go with Dredge, because we need at least 2 lands so we can cast Loom over and over and keep dredging every turn, and of course a Dredger and a way to discard, that's 4. So down to 4, and we get 2 Agonists, 2 Helix, plus lands. Of course this is horrible hand, but we keep it and send back both Agonists and 1 Helix, thinking that if Helix get discarded, I can do something maybe on turn 2 if I need to. Our opponent keep 5 cards. They play Verdant Catacombs and passes the turn. We hopefully get a Reunion or a Trinkhorn so we can see more cards or put something in our graveyard, but of course we all know Magic. I draw a land. Well, we then play Wooded Foothills and pass the turn. Turn 2, they play Overgrown Tomb, untapped, going down to 17 and playing Inquisition, taking nothing from our hand. Well, obviously, I forget to crack the fetch land during their end step and we draw another land. So I play a fetch land and say go. During our end step they bolt our face, going down to 17. Opponent draws a card for the turn and plays Tarmogoyf as a 3-4. This time, and just to be sure, we crack both fetch lands during their second main phase. This time we draw something useful, an Imp, so we play a land and cast it. Opponent draws, and with 3 cards in hand, takes a little bit of time thinking. As they are young, I'm thinking that they must have something to remove the Imp from the board before attack, but either way, they decide to attack with Tarmogoyf, and of course we block, and both creatures die. During their second main phase, they cast a Noose, giving us just a little window to make this game work. We dredge 5 with the Imp and get Loom and Conflagrate. They have a few options here, but we definitely want to kill the Ooze as soon as possible. Thinking that Conflagrate can be our finisher, with Loom in our graveyard, we use Helix to kill the Ooze and pass the turn. Opponent plays Verdant Catacombs and cracks it for a Blood Crypt untapped, going down to 14, and casts Pillage on one of our lands, then passes the turn. We get back Loom, dredging 3, and getting 1 Creeping Chill and 2 lands. With Creeping Chill, our opponent goes down to 11, so Conflagrate and Helix is almost enough for lethal, but we have 10 damage between Loom to give us 3 lands for a total of 7 cards in hand and extra 3 from Helix. But we only have 4 lands, so we can't do all that next turn. We need at least 6. So finally we play a land and say go. Opponent draws and pillages another one of our lands, then passes the turn. But still, we have our white sword, so it's okay if we need to cast Helix. But that pillage took away our possibility to have 6 mana on turn 7. We Dredge Loom, again, getting 2 cards and 2 lands. We use it to get 3 more lands and play 1 and say go. Opponent draws and plays Ashiok, destroying our plan, and giving me the feeling that I should have at least cast Helix last turn, but well. Then we draw another Sting with him and play a Broadkeep untapped, going to 17 to be able to cast one of our imps. Then we cast it and pass the turn. Our opponent draws and bolt our imp, then uses Ashiok -1 to mill us and exile our graveyard. Finally, passes the turn. Then we draw and get a Conflagrate. This can be our game-changing card because it can help us kill Ashiok and then finish the game. So we play a Sting with Imp and a land in case they kill our Imp. Then the next turn we will have access to 7 mana to cast Conflagrate for 3 and kill Ashiok. So we say go. They draw a card and activate Ashiok and we lose 1 Creeping Chill. Then they pass the turn with 2 cards in hand. We draw a Lava Axe and go to combat to attack Ashiok for 1 with our Imp. They cast Abrupt Decay, killing our Imp, which is great. Now we can kill Ashiok with our Conflagrate and Dredge 5 next turn. So that's what we do, and pass the turn without playing lands, so we can get a bigger Conflagrate later on. Opponent draws and play Bloodstained Mire, then passes the turn. We Dredge for 5 with the Imp and get Loom, Forgotten Cave, Helix, and 2 Silversmith. That's perfect. Now we have 8 damage between Conflagrate and Helix. We can get a few lands to Conflagrate again next turn, and also now we get the 2 Silversmith to the battlefield. So we cast Helix to get the Silversmith at the end of our turn and keep the Conflagrate in our graveyard, just in case we need to cast it for more than 6 next turn, because well, they could kill our Silversmith. Then we cycle the Triumph and Dredge 3 more with Loom, and this way we maybe get next turn lethal just with Conflagrate. Also, we get to play a land and cast Loom again for a total of 6 cards in hand. At our end step, our opponent cracks the Bloodstain, searching for a basic swamp, and cast File Push to one of our creatures. Opponent then draw for turn and cast a 6/7 Tarmogoyf, and now with our opponent without cards in hand, we Dredge for 3 with Loom and get a Creeping Chill, leaving him at 4. I look if I still have lands in the deck and play Wooded Foothills for a basic mountain. Cast the Loom to get a few lands back and cast Conflagrate, finally for 4 to kill him. Thank you guys for watching, and please, if you have any comments or ideas that can help this channel be better, let me know in the comment section. Have a good day and see you later.